Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria has released guidelines for the selection of private sector companies that would qualify for financial support under the new 100 for 100 policy PPP initiative. The financial regulator says the first phase of the new program takes off yesterday, November the 1st, which will be rolled over on February 1st, 2022. To get more insight into this latest development is the development finance economist, Professor Ken Ife. Professor Ken Ife joins us from Abuja studios. Great having you on the show tonight, Professor. We appreciate your time. What do you think the central bank is driving at with this latest 100 for 100 policy PPP program?
Yeah, first, CBN has always realized that there was a need, an ongoing need to diversify the economy, but to do that by correcting the imbalance in the economy. If you look at the primary GDP sectors, the agriculture is around 20, 22, 23, and then you have industry around 18, and that manufacturing industry. Then you have services around 54, 56. That is imbalance. It shows you that because industry should be around 25 to 30 or even 35 to show a sensible balance. Now, what it is that the weakest link in our economy is the link between the primary agricultural sector, the primary sector actually, and the industrial sector. But that's the weakest link. And so you needed to diversify. So each time we talk about diversification, is already from the perspective of making sure that the real sector increases the value of their produce. You know, those in the mineral should process their mineral and then refine them. Those in oil and gas to produce more refined products to be consumed in the country and exported. And those in raw agricultural to go into value addition and start exporting. And if you look at Asian tiger economies, most of them have actually grown from export-led activity. So when they are exporting their products, they are now charging the base and then making sure that the base is energized. And that is the missing link. Now, CBN has pushed a lot of money to the base of our pyramid with Anchor Borrowers program and all of that. So it's got a very strong base of 3.67 million farmers and all of that. But it needs to move up the value chain. And so this is why this program is very, very important. But it's not just for agriculture. It's also for other real sectors that are going to meet the kind of conditions that they have set. And those conditions are to increase GDP, increase employment, increase investment in human capital development index, and then also to export to foreign exchange. And then also, you know, there are quite a few requirements that they've set out, criteria.
Yes. So do you think these selection criteria that are set out are fair enough to make this program a success?
Actually, it is. I have 26 years experience in the UK as chairing the European program, Economic Recognition Program. And I recognize those 5 major criteria. And they actually divided the whole thing equally, 2020 marks across the 5 criteria. And the first one looks at the company itself, and then scrutinizes the company from the point of view of its financials, viability, innovation, and all the other creditworthiness, even of their directors. So it looks deeply into that company to be sure that it is fit for the purpose and it has a productive capacity. Then it comes and looks at the far end. The 5th one looks at the overall environment, how is the strategic fitness of that sector to the sectoral priorities, and then how are you going to integrate whatever you are doing to the global supply chain. And the number 2, 3, and 4 now focuses on the job creation. What job are you bringing into the system, and how much investment are you going to make on human capital development? In fact, give us a timetable. They want a comprehensive timetable on that. Then the 3rd one focuses on what is it contributing to GDP, contribution to growth, contribution of by any foreign exchange to dilute what is going on with the oil. So it looks at all of that, and what's the export? What are you exporting? And what is the value you're adding to export? And then the 4th one comes to local content, which is very, very important, because on the local content, it says that I want 80% of your workforce Nigerians, yes. Minimum of 80%. And then it says that I want at least 50% of the products feeding the industrial raw material should be of Nigerian origin. So it looks at strict rule of origin on industrial input. So that is good, actually. But then, you know, the devil is in the detail. But I think there are 2 things that I couldn't see from my experience in the past, which I'm sure will come. you need to build the capacity of those who are going to meet this requirement. Because some companies may have good products, very innovative, really going to do well, but to get them to write proposals that are going to be assessed and scored is something else. So what we do in UK and Europe is that we spend about 5% of program money to build capacity of all of those who are going to be bidding into this, and then also to train assessors that are going to be assessing these. So it's the kind of jobs that I was doing, all of that, training both sides of the equation.
Yeah, do you think there are enough incentives in this 100 for 100 PPP arrangement for the private sector to latch on?
Oh, of course there are. There are absolutely, because they will be involving the stakeholders, the fiscal authorities, to ensure that there will be incentives that are going to go on. And if you look at the lending terms, it's actually longish. It's 10 years with 2-year moratorium, and they are using the same program format as the real sector facility, which draws on the differentiated cash reserve ratio. And what that means in effect is that there are over 4 trillion naira sitting in the central bank, which is 27.5% of the capital of these banks, that sits there and earns no interest for them. So the CBN has been telling them, come and borrow against this money, come and borrow this money, and then lend to the real sector at 9%, 7 years, and 1-year moratorium. Now it is the same money that is being brought into view. But there's a sharper focus. With this 100 for 100, there's a sharper focus and higher definition of purpose and output and performance criteria. So I think it has a lot of chance of succeeding. But again, you know that the devil is always in the detail and in the implementation. But then the banks are going to carry the entire risk. The CBN made it very clear that they're going to carry the entire risk, but they will get all the support that they need, all the kind of incentive that they need, they will get them.
Professor, do you think the development finance window of the central bank is being overstretched? It's ACOS Borrowers Program, you talk about universities and polytechnics, and you're talking about the 100 for 100 policy PPP and a few others.
I don't think so, because this is coming largely from the differentiated cash reserve ratio. So which means that this money is already sitting within the central bank, not earning any interest for the banks. So they are rolling these monies out. And I said to you, it's over 4 trillion in that. And then if you look at 100 for 100 means that you may have about 365 businesses in a year. And the single obligor limit is 5 billion. So if you look at that, that means about 1.7 trillion could be disbursed if we are running at 100% efficiency. But you know, it's not going to be like that, because it's going to be scored and it's a very rigorous process. So you may not have that number coming through. But having said that, there is enough money in the kitty to fund this project. And of course, you start rolling them over. And in fact, what the CBN says is this: they want you to amortize the monthly payment interest and then pay it back to CBN every quarter, plus the capital component. So it's got planned to get that money back, as quickly as possible. The whole risk is with the commercial banks. So you could just debit the account of the commercial banks on a quarterly basis to make sure that there's replenishment. And I have no problem at all. That at least for the next 2 years, the money is sitting there waiting to be accessed.
Well, thank you so much for your time this evening. Professor Ken Ife, a development economist from Abuja Studios. Thank you very much for breaking down the 100 for 100 policy PPP of the central bank just announced. Thank you so much.